My name's Joe Giordano. I'm the CEO of Payzer. And Payzer, we are a payments and software technology company in South Charlotte, right down the road, near Carmel and 51. We were founded in 2012, but we really weren't much of a company until 2014 when we got our first round of funding. We took in about $4.2 million from Growtech Ventures and Route 66 Ventures out of DC. And we've raised now $25 million in capital over the course of our existence. And since 2014, we've grown very rapidly. We're up to about 80 employees. We have 4,000 customers who are all specialty trade contractors. I'll talk a little more about that. We're in all 50 states, including Hawaii and Alaska and the District of Columbia. We ran about $800 million of payment volume through our platform last year, and we expect to exceed $1 billion this year if the team does what I think they will. And we're moving into new office space, which is exciting for us on Carmel Road this spring. So that's a little snapshot on Payzer. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is I'm going to tell you what I've learned, some of what I've learned, and some of the mistakes I've made. I don't really want to admit to all the mistakes, so a few selected mistakes about developing products in my career, okay? My background, just very quickly, I spent 20 years at Exxon and then Exxon Mobil after the merger, and developed a number of products. I ran the credit card business there, so all of the Mobil and Exxon credit cards, and I ran my organization ran the gateway and the communications out to all the 10,000 gas station dealers, and it was a lot of fun. But after 20 years, I left, and I worked for Bank of America for 5 years as a payment strategy executive. And then in 2012, and along the way, I developed something called SpeedPass, which I'll talk about in a minute. But more than 25 years of software and payments and technology experience, working a lot with gas station dealers around the world. And I quit corporate life when I was 48 and threw in the towel and proceeded to start Payzer with my co-founder, Doug Little. And then I proceeded to not take a salary for 3 years, which was a lot of fun. At Payzer, we're succeeding, as I look at it, because of a lot of things, but three of the things are, and three of the things you need to have a successful product is a great strategy, first of all, because you need the guardrails to focus what that product attacks, what problems it attacks. And obviously you need a great product, and you always need great people. So if 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but it doesn't cut it. You need all 3 to make it work. With strategy, it's so important, that you recognize up front before you even start thinking about product, is the market big enough to matter? It's really great when there's a change in technology that really facilitates some great new value creation. And the hardest thing is probably timing, and I'll talk about that. You have to make sure you're at the right time, because that's a problem you can't fix. And then distribution. You have to have a way to get to the customer. And if you're in a B2C business, you have a much bigger problem than we do in a B2B business. But everybody has their challenges with distribution, and you have to solve that to be successful. Okay? Great product. Make sure you're focused on the critical problems, and make sure you understand and identify the problem deeply. Great people. We believe in the theory that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when you have a great strategy and when you have product market fit. It's amazing what people can do when they're focused and when they work together as a team. All right. All right. So it starts with strategy. That's the guide rails for the product and the people. All right. For Payzer, first looking at the target market, it is big. We have if you look at residential specialty trade contractors, which we focus on, it's about $700 billion a year, and I think that number's low. The commercial side puts it into the trillions. So this is a gigantic market. We decided to focus initially on HVAC and plumbing, one little piece of it, and we think our opportunity over the long term is in the billions, okay? So HVAC and plumbing is a $150 billion market by itself. They spend a large portion of their revenue on software, okay? And our goal is to capture some of that revenue pool. If we can capture a small market share in that space, you know, we can grow to be $1 billion company. So that's what we aspire to do. There's 650,000 contractors in the space in total. We have 4,000, so we're just at the beginning, right? We have a long way to go. All right, so the first thing, big market. Some other things about the market that you want to identify is there a dominant competitor? You know, is there someone that's going to be really hard to beat? You know, that has certain competitive advantages that you won't be able to deal with in the time that you have, in the limited time you have as a startup to get to where you're going before you run out of money, right? So you have to look at that, and you have to look at, you know, how easy it would be to access that market. In our case, this is a huge market, but it's fragmented. So there's a lot of little small contractors all over the place. And so you've got to come up with a strategy for how to get to them. So we thought about all those things. And even though it was fragmented, we said, okay, well, we have some ideas on how to handle that. And we like that it's fragmented, because if it's hard, that also creates allows you to create a competitive advantage and you know, keep other people out of your market once you build it up. All right. So the second thing we looked at was technology, and the fact that, you know, contractors don't need a system in the office. They need a system where they're working, right? And they're working all over the place, and everybody's home and business. So they need something that'll work on the run, right? And so we were looking at it, and at the time, this was 2012 and 13, you know, 3G networks were in place, and they're not, you know, the technology wasn't good enough to run a business on, quite frankly. It wasn't reliable enough, couldn't handle enough data. But we knew LTE was coming, and we were kind of banking on this, that it would be deployed. And fortunately for us, in 2014, it started to roll out, and it rolled out fast. It has been one of the most rapidly deployed technologies, and that has made a huge difference. So in our mobile applications, they're always online. Like, we don't have an offline mode, and we don't get a lot of pushback on that. But that allows us to have a much lower cost solution. And with LTE, as with all great technology changes, you have the opportunity to simultaneously deliver lower cost and greater customer value, right? And when you have that type of a potential opportunity, it can be big. We call that the synthesis of opposites, when two opposite concepts can be synthesized in one product, and you can deliver a multi-dimensional value proposition. It's the potential for a big deal, all right? And then we address distribution. We have a great sales team, and we've signed up everybody that matters in the segments we were focusing on. So we've got the top 4 HVAC manufacturers. You recognize some of those names. You don't recognize Daikin and Goodman, probably. They're the biggest in the world, by far. Goodman is the biggest in the US. They're owned by Daikin. Daikin is the biggest in the world. And then we've got the big guys you recognize, Carrier, Lennox, Trane. We have the world's largest plumbing distributor. In plumbing, the manufacturers are less important because there aren't dominant ones per se that are easy to get to, but Ferguson consolidates all the plumbers. By far, they are the biggest distributor of plumbing product to contractors in the US, and they're also one of our investors. So we're very fortunate to be working with them. And then GAF, the largest roofing manufacturer. I'm told by my sales team they have a 40% market share. As a result, when you get the strategy right and you do some of the other things right as well, you grow. So we've gone from 4 employees to 80 employees since we were funded at the end of 2014. We've grown payment volume 10x from 6 to 60 million, and we've gone from 125 customers to 4,000. So when you get it right, it's a lot of fun. And so the question is, how do you get it right? You know, so you've got a strategy, you know where you want to go, you know where the money is, right? Now, how do we get the right product? So before I do it, I'm going to go back to my Exxon Mobil days, because I think there's some good examples there, and I think you guys can all relate to buying gas since we all do that. So I'm going to use some of these as examples. But when I was at Exxon Mobil in 1993, we decided to test video touchscreen dispensers. They didn't look exactly like this, but it was a big deal at the time. That was new technology. It was pretty expensive still, and you know, we got sold on the idea of creating an advertising machine and pushing news and information to customers while they were fueling their car, right? So everybody was all excited. They thought that people would actually look to the gas station as their source of information, which is really a dumb idea. But so we didn't really know what problem we were being solved. We were kind of sold by a vendor, you know, a hardware vendor, obviously. And anyway, we did the test in Orlando, and people didn't really like it too much. Some people even disliked it. Some people liked it a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a horrible disaster, but it certainly wasn't a success. And so we pulled it out, and you know, we found that really just what the fuel-only customers wanted was just to get out of there as fast as possible. So they just wanted to pump their gas and get out as fast as they could. And they got really annoyed when it took 1 second extra of time. And so anyway, you do see these dispensers now in place, primarily because there's a cost reduction associated with some small subsidies from the advertisers, and some people put them in, but they're not a big deal in the market. So that didn't go well. So we started focusing on what the customers told us they really wanted, our target customers, just get in and out as fast as possible. And so we started thinking of all the ways to do that, and we really were restricted on fueling speeds themselves because of regulatory concerns there, but we were able to address the fueling, the buying experience with SpeedPass, which was a small RF transponder. It was the first use of radio frequency at retail. It was the first virtual wallet at retail. It's the first use of tokenization, where we sent through an encrypted random alias to the back-end system, matched it to the payment method, and then processed it from there. And it worked great. Customers loved it. It saved little mundane steps that you might think are unimportant, like if you're, you know, for women, finding your purse in the car, and then finding your wallet in the purse, and then getting your card out of the wallet. Or for men, getting their card out of the wallet. And we watched people buy gas, and they would sometimes go up to the pump and just stare at their wallet, trying to figure out which card they're going to use. And then they would try to put the card in, and they wouldn't orient the magnetic strip up and to the left. And then sometimes the magnetic strip doesn't work because it's 1950s technology anyway, right? And it, you know, it gets dirty in there and it just doesn't work. And then they have to read the screen, which sometimes is all scratched up and they can't see it. So when we implemented SpeedPass, we made it great. We made it so that you didn't have to push any buttons, and we stored their preferences in their card. So we used the concept of mass customization, and you just wave the wand, and we made the pump hot. They've since undone a lot of this stuff since I left, which is infuriating. But they, because Exxon has a completely different strategy. But in any event, they waved it, and all you did was lift the handle, pump the gas, and go. It was like magic. You didn't have to push any buttons. The Pegasus lights up. You don't have to read the screen. You just pump your gas and go. It was like the good old days when you could come in and say, hey, Johnny, put it on my account. And you waved your hand, and you could buy your gas and go. And that was the experience we created, and customers loved it. It was a very simple thing. It wasn't even that hard to build. And we got 1 extra fill-up per month per customer. We gained 1% in U.S. market share, which was a huge deal. And we grew to 6 million users in consumer users in 5 years on a pretty small budget. So it was a huge success and a lot of fun along the way. So that's what it looks like when you get it right. And then sometimes you get it right, but your timing is bad. So then we were feeling pretty confident, and we decided to go ahead and build a robotic gas station to make it so easy and fast that you wouldn't even have to get out of your car. And we built it, and it worked great, and the customers loved it, and the business model even worked. The pumps were expensive at the time. It was going to be $125,000 a pump, actually. And we thought we could get it down a little bit, but what we did was we said, same price as self-serve, but you had to tip the robot $1. And customers loved it. It charged an extra $1, and they drove up. There's a little screen. You pull your car between the two lines. You stop. You flip your fuel door open. That little wand in the top there comes out, pulls open the door, and then the nozzle comes out, attaches to a capless fuel cap. That was the key. It had a little trap door, and it just attached and pumped it. It was great. And it was great. Everything was great except the car companies refused to make capless fuel caps. Now they're doing it finally a little bit, but not everywhere still. So we couldn't get around the liability issue of providing an aftermarket fuel cap, so that was the end of that. So sometimes you do everything right and you still fail, but it was a lot of fun, I must say. So those are the lessons. At Payzer, we've tried to, since I quit my job and had no money coming in, we couldn't afford to make any mistakes. So we tried to be very careful in understanding the problems up front. And these are the problems we solve still today. And the biggest problem is the third one on there, one of integration, but improving the close rate. I mean, these guys, all they're trying to do is get you to, rather than pay for a repair, replace your air conditioner. So rather than spend $300, they want you to spend $8,000. Okay, but nobody has $8,000 sitting around in their bank account, so you need financing. It's like the automobile business. So, but the financing is not available at the point of purchase. So we make it available at the point of purchase in a simple, easy way. And in 30 seconds, you can get $50,000 loan right through your mobile phone. And then you can get paid the next day. So it's a tremendous capability to close more deals and drive sales. Collecting payments faster. These guys, they take a long time to get paid sometimes. And they were, at that time, less so now, but using invoicing as a method to get paid. And we told them, no, just go into Payzer at the end of every job, push accept payment, answer the questions, and you'll get paid. And whether it's whether it's a check, take a picture of a check, enter the bank account in, swipe a card, dip a card, enter a card, set up recurring payments, settle a loan. Remember how you were going to get paid, they can do it through Payzer, all with the same process. And then the biggest problem is the back office. Because they didn't really have broad adoption of the internet even in 2013, they had 6 or 7 different systems for every job. So a call comes in and they look in their customer spreadsheet or system and find the customer history or the customer data and enter it in if they need to. And then they have to schedule the appointment. So they go into their appointment system, see what the technicians are doing, and they enter the customer information again and they schedule the appointment. And then they want to do a proposal to try to get you to buy a new system. So they go into their proposal system, re-enter all the customer information, and enter in the product information. Okay? And then they need to buy it. So they go into their purchase order spreadsheet, and they enter all the customer information and all the parts. And then they do the same for the invoice, and then they do the same when they take the payment, and then they enter the whole thing into QuickBooks. And that's how they run jobs in contractors. So if it's difficult to get an invoice, you know why. Because somebody has to enter all that information back in the office and ship it out to the contractor somehow. So you get it a few days later. So we eliminate all of that. You enter information in once, you never enter information in twice. It flows through the system all the way down into QuickBooks without any data entry, and it's at a lower cost. Because when you have all those systems in your place of business, you have to run a computer center in your office with servers and shared information and whatnot, and we take all that on. Everything's in the cloud, so it's a great solution for them. And the last thing is we try to make a better experience for their customers, because as we all know, there's nothing worse than not trusting your contractor, and when they're writing your card number down on a bubblegum wrapper and taking it back to the office to take your payment, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence. So we have a great product, an easy to use system, and they swipe the card or whatever they do, gets them an email receipt branded in the brand of the contractor. Everything's transparent, above board, simple, easy, and we create a much better user experience in many ways for the customer. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this up front, making sure we understood the problem, validated the problem, and that we could make a go at this. All right? And our solution is delivered through 2 platforms, Payzer and Payzerware. And it's really, I think I've pretty much gone through all of these various pieces, but it's all the different payment and loan types and financial stuff in Payzer. And then the end-to-end management system is Payzerware. And when you get Payzerware, you get Payzer with it, obviously.